Well, we have one more day where there are two baseball games going on.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am yours, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. I am an Emmy-nominated television producer who has been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now. And we are wrapping up and approaching the end of our fifth season and our fifth World Series as a podcaster here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks so much for making it your first listen. This episode is brought to you in part by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, they're guaranteed. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Just to let you know, later in the show, Millard Thomas of Locked on Diamondbacks will be on the show. We'll be previewing the afternoon game that's going to be happening on Monday, the 23rd of October. But first, we're going to be talking about a game where the final score was incredibly misleading. On first glance, oh my God, the Rangers blew out the Astros 9-2. It was a much closer game than that. It was a truly thrilling game. That final score did not reflect the intensity of that baseball game that we saw on Sunday night. And now we have a game 7. First, though, we do have a trivia question to ask. And the trivia question I asked was, who was the first Houston Astro to win a league championship series MVP? And so there's an easy way to think of that. When did the Astros first win a pennant? Well, they first won the pennant as a member of the National League in 2005. And who was the MVP of the 2005 National League Championship Series? Why was Roy Oswalt? That's why John Murphy Jr. guessed that. That's why Court Stell guessed that. But that answer is wrong. Someone else, it was Daniel Rodriguez, guessed Beltran, because Carlos Beltran had an unbelievable league championship series in 2004 in a losing cause. That answer's wrong. And John Murphy Jr. finally corrected himself. The answer is Mike Scott. Mike Scott won the National League Championship Series MVP in 1986. Even though the Astros lost the series in 6 games, Mike Scott won the MVP because he was dominant in his 2 victories against the Mets and was scheduled to start in Game 7. And the specter of Mike Scott made that 16-inning marathon Game 6 even the more dramatic. So there you go. That was the answer to the question. Hey, let's just jump in a little bit about this game. I'm sure listen to Bryce Patrick on Locked On Rangers, listen to Eric and H-Town Locked On Astros for a deep dive on the game. But give Altuve credit and give Alvarez credit. They showed up and they put the Rangers immediately on their heels and put Eovaldi on their heels. And did we all think it was going to be an Astros win when they jumped ahead? Well, the person who I did, but Garver showed up big time for the Rangers. And while the grand slam that happened later was going to get all the attention, it was Garver who hit the game-tying home run and immediately made a statement. And the Rangers were there to stay. And Heim hit the 2-run home run just above the reach of Tucker in right field. But that home run by Garver was huge. And Garver's speed and Garver's hits really turned the game in the direction of the Rangers. He wound up going 3 for 4, scoring 2, driving in 2. And did you notice how Bruce Bochy handled Nathan Eovaldi? Please, this is an old school, new school analytics. As I said, I'm not an anti-analytics person. Analytics are important to use in creating a team. But he let Nathan Eovaldi pitch until he needed relief. He pitched into the seventh inning, and he pitched with one out in the seventh, and then let up a hit to Altuve. At that point, he had let up 5 hits and 3 walks, and he had thrown, how many pitches had he had thrown at that point? Eovaldi had thrown 88 pitches, but you could tell he was starting to get a little vulnerable. And so they had a rested and ready bullpen because they had the travel day. And this is a system that I want more managers to think of the term relief pitcher. It gives the starter relief. When do you need relief? You need relief when you're tired. You need relief when you're no longer effective. You need relief when you realize, oh boy, whoever we have in the bullpen is a better option than who is currently on the mound. That's what drives me crazy about lifting Fought the other day, was that he didn't need relief. He was pitching well, thank you very much. That's why sometimes some of these arbitrary, like we've decided this or going through the order one more time, we'll do that. First of all, automatically assume that whoever's coming from the bullpen is going to be effective when you already have an effective pitcher on the mound. But also, how about you get them for relief? Well, that's exactly what Bochy did. Now, to be fair, that's also what Dusty did with the Astros. Valdez looked a little rattled after letting up the home run, and he wound up letting up the 2 home runs, and he wound up letting up 5 hits, 3 runs, and 2 walks in 5 innings. It wasn't a terrible outing. It wasn't a great outing. And Dusty wound up going to his bullpen because he felt that they needed relief. And so there you go. And so I have to say this, the final score was 9-2, but the Astros had the bases loaded in a 4-2 game in the bottom of the 8th inning. And then they were basically an extra base hit away from taking the lead, or certainly a base hit would have tied the game. An extra base hit would have given them the lead and put them in a position where they were 3 outs away from going to the World Series. So when you see it's a 9-2 final, you got to take into account they were about to take the lead. And Leclerc came in, and give Bochy some credit here that he went to Leclerc in the 8th inning instead of Aroldis Chapman, because maybe Bochy, I don't know, looked at reality and saw that Chapman would probably have blown the lead. He brought in Leclerc, and there was a scenario when John Singleton, whose story was told in the regular season that he was out of baseball, came back, and after years of struggling in the minor leagues, and finally made it back and wound up hitting that big huge home run in one of those games in the regular season. He didn't have a great, he played like 30 games or something like that. Didn't put up great stats, but had some left-handed power. Came up got a walk as a pinch hitter the other day. And I thought to myself, if the Astros have to win this, I want it to be because a career minor leaguer who left baseball came back and became a postseason hero. Even the Astros, who everyone seems to hate, and I'm going to get into that a little bit later this week, why I think that may not be a bad thing. But I thought, if someone's going to do it, I want it to be this story. But instead, he got struck out. And then off we go to the 9th inning. They load the bases, and Corey Seager gets hit in the foot. And then up steps public enemy number 1 in Texas, Garcia, who had already struck out 4 times. He was being the big offensive GOAT, and nobody's going to remember that because he launched a home run in the Crawford seats, a grand slam, thank you very much. And it was almost back-to-back grand slams. As there's I think it was Jankowski, who was it? So it hit the ball right to the warning track. But the fact of the grand slam shut up the fans. And again, that's how you retaliate. Astros, how do you retaliate to him doing the whole, shimmying around the bases? Hit a 3-run home run, win the game. Adolis Garcia, how do you retaliate to all the boos and becoming public enemy number 1? Hit a back-breaking grand slam that allowed them to lift Leclerc and not use some of their other key relievers. So now we go there. We're going to have a game today. And sorry, Astros fans, everybody on the planet Earth who was not born and raised in Houston or doesn't have a friend currently on the team will be rooting for the Texas Rangers and Bruce Bochy. Either way, this is exactly what we wanted. We wanted a white knuckle game, albeit one that was a blowout by the end, but it was just one inning that they blew them out. And we're going to have a fabulous Game 7, which also means we're going to have 2 games. And this is the last day that could possibly happen. And in the end, I kind of want the Diamondbacks to win so we have 2 Game 7s. But in the end, that's all I wanted was a good, solid baseball. And we got it. And maybe we'll get it doubled up today. Hey, look, it's Millard Thomas of Locked on Diamondbacks stopping by. I would not have bet on you stopping by early. Hey, did I mention betting? Does that remind you of anything?
I think it does, Sully, of just one thing.
Well, it reminds me of FanDuel. The World Series is going to happen this week. And by the end of the day, we're going to know who one of the participants is. And you could make your postseason debut with FanDuel, which is America's #1 sports book. Hey, Millard, have you heard about FanDuel? And you heard about their new deal?
Oh, yeah, Sully. I pour a lot of my money into FanDuel, and sometimes I get some money back, too.
Well, it gets a little easier to get that money back because if you join FanDuel today, you can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to create your new account. Then you can get on the action from the first pitch until the final out or the walk-off hit, which you're hoping is not going to happen in Philadelphia tomorrow. Bet on everything from strikeouts to home runs to who will win the game and who will get hit. And if you don't want to wait the whole game to get a W, predict what will happen next at the next at-bat with quick bets. So head on over to FanDuel.com/lockedon right now. Step up to the plate this postseason with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Make every moment more with FanDuel, which is the official betting partner of Major League Baseball. Hey, let's get rid of the FanDuel banner. Welcome to the show, officially, Millard Thomas. Hey. We talked a lot about the American League in the first segment. D-backs are still alive. They're still there. And I think they've got a puncher's chance, actually. Tell me your thoughts as the voice of Diamondbacks baseball on the Locked On Podcast Network about the Diamondbacks and their quest to win 2 more games.
Oh,
hold on.
Okay.
Sorry, there's a keep going, buddy. Keep going.
Yeah. Quick technical difficulty. Yeah. Still have a lot of hope and belief in this D-backs team. And watching that Game 6, Rangers versus Astros, want the D-backs to take a little something of what they saw in that game, in that series, because I thought the Rangers played their brand of baseball in that Game 6. And I think that's what the D-backs have to do going into Citizens Bank Park. You just have to play stress-free D-backs baseball. The Houston Astros are a team that's been in the championship series or better every year since 2017. There's a lot of pressure on a team like Houston to get back to the World Series. Same with the Philadelphia Phillies. That team wants to go back to their second straight World Series. They have such a big payroll, so much pot committed to that team to be at home in front of your ballpark or in front of your fans at your home ballpark. Like, there's a lot of pressure on the Phillies, and everyone right now just kind of writing off the D-backs, right? Jeff Passan was tweeting out after the Phillies went up in that game 5 that this series was over. You can just write off the D-backs after all the D-backs have done this postseason. They were already getting written off after one series, after one game loss in Game 5. You look at the ESPN headlines after they tied up. It's like, look at the scrappy little D-backs coming through in a big postseason. Like, no one is having a lot of faith in this D-backs team. So for them going into this Game 6, like, I'm not going to put any pressure on this D-backs team. I don't think they should be putting pressure on themselves either. I want them to play stress-free baseball, play D-backs baseball, get back to using your speed, get back to creating chaos and havoc on the bases, and just play with that sense of despair and have that fire in your belly, but don't overexert yourself. Don't play out of control. Just play stress-free, and I think anything can be possible after seeing what the Texas Rangers did in Game 6 to the Houston Astros.
And also think about the fact that, in one sense, the fact that everyone's written them off,
Mhm.
everyone's already printing out their World Series tickets for Philadelphia. Think about the fact that they won 2 games in Milwaukee. They won 2 games in Los Angeles. And they bounced back after getting the doors blown off of the 10-0 fiasco in game 2. And I don't know if you heard my show, but I was raking Laval over the coals for
Yeah.
taking out, fought way too soon, who was throwing a masterpiece. And, he had a bullpen game the next day. He got away with it. He dodged
Mhm.
that bullet Matrix
Yeah.
style. But everyone has counted out the D-backs. Hell, we were counting out the D-backs.
Yeah. Before the
When they
playoffs.
went through that massive losing streak and fell out of the playoff spot in the middle of September. And when they lost all those games at the end of the year, it was like they were limping in, facing a Milwaukee team that just looked so much better than them. Every time that you've totally written this team off, they've come back. And the other thing is, every pitcher, Nola's been excellent this postseason. There's no getting around that. But the fact of the matter is, Nola's a human being.
Mhm.
Some of the best pitchers I've ever seen, some of the best clutch pitchers I've ever seen, have had bad days. And Kelly is a darn good pitcher. It's not like they're throwing a bullpen game out there. They have
No.
one of their 2 best pitchers out there. So Kelly is the key.
Yeah.
And I think if Kelly shuts them down and it turns into, if it's like a close, like 2-1, 2-2 game in the 7th or 8th inning, then you could feel things puckering up in Philadelphia. And if the Diamondbacks lose 58-0, nobody would blink.
Yeah.
So there's no pressure on them whatsoever.
That's what I don't understand. I just don't understand how so many people can just easily write them off after everything we've seen this postseason. The fact that they didn't get their first home playoff game until that Game 3 against the LA Dodgers, right? In their second postseason series, they weren't able to get their first home playoff game until Game 3. So this is a team that has faced adversity through the entire postseason, down to nothing in this series. Everyone was writing them off until this series got back to Arizona and the D-backs were able to tie it up. So I think Merrill Kelly is the key to this game, number 6, because we've been hoping for the D-backs offense to get going early in these games against these Philly starters all series long. And unfortunately for the D-backs, these Philly starters have just been electric. I mean, Zach Wheeler has been unhittable. Nola was unhittable in his first start. Ranger Suarez was really good too. So I expect Aaron Nola to go out there and be a stud as well. Like you said, I need this to just be a pitcher's duel through the first 6-7 innings, potentially. Keep the game close. Keep that Phillies offense really at bay. And Merrill Kelly can do what he did last time, but this time, hopefully, Torey Lovullo keeps him out there a little bit longer to finish out that 6th inning. Trust in your starting pitcher in Merrill Kelly. Right now, Kelly is the guy in this rotation I trust the most out of all the D-back starting rotation. Zach Allen's the most talented, but we saw how he struggled in the second half, and we saw the last 2 starts against the Phillies. I know what Brandon Pfaadt has done his last 2 postseason starts, but Merrill Kelly is the guy we have the most faith in right now. Trust Merrill Kelly. If he even runs into a little trouble out there in the 4th, 5th inning, trust him to get through it. We used the bullpen heavy a couple days ago, so I want to see Merrill Kelly go as deep as he can in this one. If you could keep this Phillies offense to 3, maybe 4 runs the first 6-7 innings, I think the D-backs will have an opportunity to at least get the tying run to the plate later in the ball game once you get to that bullpen.
Now, I have a thought. We're going to talk about this in the next segment because
Mhm.
there is a player who is coming to mind about who could be the absolute key and could be the key for the Arizona Diamondbacks pennant hopes. But of the relievers, because you got Kelly and you're hoping. Look
Mhm.
at this point, you have to manage an elimination game differently.
Yeah.
And if Kelly is throwing a masterpiece, I'm sorry, you got to let him go until he runs out of gas, because there's a whole winter you can rest up. But short of Kelly, who's, by the way, his ERA is deceptive. I
Yeah.
mean, he has a high ERA in this series, but it's because he had a bad 6th inning in the start that he went through. But which reliever would be the first to come out of the pen for you if Kelly has some early trouble?
Yeah, it probably depends on if there's a righty or lefty on the mound, but there's some early trouble. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Tuilavello just wants to go with his best quartet of relievers that he has with the Sal Frank, Ryan
Mm,
Thompson, then Ginkle Seawald, because those four guys I don't believe pitch in that last postseason game in Game 5. So I think
right.
Troy Lavello just going to go with his best relievers here. If there's a lefty on the at the plate, if it's like Bryce Harper or a different lefty at the plate, maybe you go with Sal Frank first. If you run into a little bit of trouble, if there's a righty, I think you probably bring out Ryan Thompson first. Thompson's also a guy that could give you some extended innings, maybe go 2 innings, and maybe you do that with all your relievers, right? If it is the 7th inning, if Kelly was able to get you to the 7th, maybe go, you know what, Ginkle, we want you to get 2 innings worth of outs here, or record 5 outs, and then we'll bring in Paul Sewald for a 4-out save. Maybe you try to stretch those guys, because Ginkle and Sewald, what we saw this postseason, I mean, neither one of those guys has a yet to allow an earned run. Both those guys have been absolute shut down the back end of the bullpen. So maybe if you really maybe if you feel truly desperate out there in the 6th inning, 7th inning, maybe you go to those two guys a lot earlier and give them some extended work out the pen.
I'm glad you said that, because
Mm.
I was thinking about Ginkle. I was thinking about, Castro's pitched pretty well in this postseason so far,
Mhm.
and Sewald. And in my head, I was thinking that Lovola has to come up to those 3 pitchers and say, each of you are going to give me 2 innings. Be in the mindset you're going to give me 2 innings,
Mhm.
and kind of almost retrofitting it from there. Like, Sewald's going to give you the 8th and 9th. Ginkle is going to give you the 6th and 7th. Castro's going to give you the 4th and 5th, and you hope that Kelly makes that moot.
Yeah.
If you hope that Kelly pushes it, but like, even if you take Kelly out in the 6th inning or the 7th inning, hand the ball to Ginkle and say, "Give me 2 innings. Give me 2 innings," because what you don't want to see, and which is the nightmare, and when we're going to go to a break in just a second, but the nightmare would be you burn through Sewald and Ginkle and your most reliable relievers, and it's tied, and you're in
Yeah.
extra innings, and then all of a sudden you have to reactivate Madison Bumgarner to pitch in
Uh,
extra innings. And kind of, that's the nightmare in some way, to be like, you burn through too many pitchers too quickly, and now the pennant's on the line, and you're 5th or 6th pitchers deep in it.
yeah, I need to see Torey Lovullo just play his best players. Like, use Merrill Kelly as deep as he can, because Merrill Kelly, if he gets, crushed early, like, I think the D-backs just roll over in this one. Like, I don't think the chance, if, Phillies put up like 6 runs in those first couple innings and you just got to yank Merrill Kelly, I don't think there's any chance. So you need Merrill Kelly to go 6, 7 innings, and then just use your best relievers out the pen. At this point, elimination game. I don't care about the matchups. I don't care about the lefty stuff. Just go with your best dudes. And if you could get it to the 7th in a manageable game, I wouldn't be scared to pull Kevin Ginkle out the pen early.
And you want to have that win and the win after that, so you can buy tickets to the World Series in Arizona. Speaking of tickets,
Mm-hmm.
hey, you know what? There's going to be a lot of Arizona Diamondbacks fans out there who want to see them win and win again, and buy those tickets for game 3, 4, and 5 of the World Series. And let me tell you something, D-backs fans, if it comes to that, use Gametime. Gametime takes the stress and the worry out of buying your tickets, and leaves the stress and the worry to watching the ball games. It's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, view from the seat, and the best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets, and you get the view from the seat from the venues, you get lowest price guarantee, and you get that all-in prices. They show the total right up front, so you're getting a great deal without the hidden fees. And don't worry about losing that email being sent to your device. All tickets are bought in seconds, and you have them right there on the app. Zone deals mean you pick the section, and Game Time picks the seats, with an average of 18% savings. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price if you find tickets in the same section row for less. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price. Do you want? They're guaranteed. Last minute tickets. Last minute tickets. Last minute tickets. And this is the second straight day I've stumbled over that. What are you going to do?
It's tough.
Let me tell you, we're here. Millard Thomas, Locked on Diamondbacks, is excited for Game 6, which is going to be in the afternoon on the West Coast.
What time is the game? Actually, I haven't even looked it up.
It's because Houston and the Rangers are going to Game 7. That means it's going to be 5:00 Philadelphia time, 2:00 here in Los Angeles.
Oh my
And
God.
so we're going to start watching the game in my classroom with my students, and a couple of them are big baseball fans. So we're going to have Philly D-backs on there, and we have our Game 6 is tomorrow. I'll tell you who the key factor is for me. The key factor, and to me, a turn here could mean a turn just for the series, which is Corbin Carroll, who has been an absolute non-factor in this series up at this point. But I'm remembering, and you remember this too, in 2004, Johnny Damon was an absolute non-factor in the league championship series in 2004. He just was bombing big time. And I remember when the Red Sox did tie the series, I was at the Bloody Sock, A-Rod slaps the ball game at Yankee Stadium. There were some Red Sox fans who were grumbling maybe they should start Gabe Kapler, maybe they should start Dave Roberts. If Damon wasn't pulling his weight, start someone else. And you remember what happened? He hit 2 home runs. He hit the grand slam and the 2-run home run off of Vasquez, and iced the game. And nobody remembers the fact that he stunk the first 6 games. People remember he was the offensive hero in the clinching Game 7. If they've had this offense with a black hole in the lineup, that is Corbin Carroll. If Carroll picks up, and you're not even asking him to have a great series, you're asking him to have a good Game 6. If he has the type of game that you and I know he's capable of having, that could be enough to spark the Diamondbacks offense, force a Game 7, which is that going to be a bullpen game for both teams? I mean, it's going to be Suarez versus who? You? What? Oh, Fott. That's right. Watch him be the series MVP.
Best pitcher in baseball. Yeah, come on.
That's true. That's true. So that's right. I forgot it would be his turn in the rotation. But yeah, I mean, if Corbin Carroll has the big game, and Marte and some of the other players continue to hit, you know what? I know a lot of people are already saying it's a Philly pennant, but I really do give Arizona a puncher's chance. It's not just because you're on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I would hope the D-backs have a puncher's chance with what we've seen from them. And yeah, I totally agree. We need Corbin Carroll to step in a big way. And one thing we really haven't seen from Corbin Carroll this series, all postseason, that we keep talking about, is that speed that he has, because we know he's arguably the fastest player in baseball. And so far this postseason, we just really haven't seen it. He hasn't really taken off in this series, hasn't stolen a base. And if he gets on base, because there has been a couple times, I think the first 2 games in Philly, he did get on base that first inning, and we just never sent him. And it would have just been such a good run scoring opportunity to send Corbin Carroll, get him on second early. And with the way Ketel Marte has been playing behind him, swinging one of the hottest bats in baseball. Like, Ketel Marte is a near 400 hitter in his career in the postseason. So let's send Corbin Carroll early so Ketel Marte can get those run scoring opportunities, because we've seen him be super clutch so far in this postseason. And then the other big X factor that the D-backs really need to wake up in their lineup is Christian Walker, who has been struggling big time in that cleanup hole. He has 8 strikeouts to just 2 hits in this series. And it just feels like anytime there's been runners on and Christian Walker's at the plate, it feels like he's striking out. How many half swings have I seen from Christian Walker this series, where it feels like he's trying to get out the way, but he's swinging through the pitch every single time? I swear I've seen at least 5 of those half swings from him this series where he gets called up on strikes. So Christian Walker needs to be a little bit more locked in at the plate. We need a big – this is one of the best power hitters in baseball, and we just have not seen the slugging from Christian Walker in this postseason and especially this series. So Corbin Carroll and Christian Walker, I think, are 2 X factors that the D-backs really need to see step up. And then on the other side for the Phillies, I think the tandem of Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber, I mean, is that not the most scariest duo that from the D-backs perspective that they need to see slow down a little bit?
I was stunned that Schwarber only had 5 homers. I thought he
Yeah.
had at least 20 this series. It was unbelievable. Well, we got a big series coming on, and this is the last day we could ever have 2 games in the same day. So let's savor that,
Oh,
baseball fans. Um, let's do today's trivia question. And do
okay.
you know what? I thought of this trivia question while taking my dog for a walk. And when I came home, I did the homework for it because I didn't get it from a site. I got it on my own. So here is the trivia question. It's a pretty simple one. Who was the last pitcher to save both game 6 and 7 of a major league postseason series? Who
Mm.
was the last person to slam the door and earn the save? That's the key. Earning the save in game 6 and 7 of a postseason series. Write the answers down here on YouTube or at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or on Instagram, or where I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, or whatever it's called now, and Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Millard Thomas, where can people listen to your terrific show?
Yeah, I created Thomas 24 if you want to follow me on my personal Twitter account, or look up Locked On Diamondbacks both Twitter and Instagram. Please hit subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube, and of course, we're on all your podcasting platforms.
You know, Millard, when they paired us together to do these, weekly crossovers, I did not think I was going to have someone who would be going this deep into the postseason. But like everyone at Locked On Yankees, Locked On Mets,
Yeah.
Locked On Dodgers, Locked On Cardinals, Locked On Brewers, Locked On Padres, who all thought they were making plans for October, your team are 2 wins away from the World Series. It's been a real pleasure having you on during the regular season and postseason, and in the offseason, you'll be here too. But hey, follow us at all the places I said. On behalf of Millard Thomas of Locked On Diamondbacks, I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully, and let's fist bump for one more time.